listening to the Astral Hour. I'm your host, Astral Meadow. Join me as we take a glimpse into the mysterious. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm joined with Sandy Hanshaw. Her and her husband, Paul, are the owners of the Sacred Owl and Salt Room, located here in Knoxville. They have been in the metaphysical community for over 35 years and are huge advocates for creating a safe, non-judgmental space for people to go on a road of self-discovery and healing. She is an integrative arts practitioner, transformative intuitive life coach, and a certified hypnotherapist who specializes in past life regression therapy. Her education includes over 30 different modalities, and she is currently working on her PhD in metaphysical counseling. She also enjoys helping others identify blocks and working to find ways to move past them. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. You have such a cool background. I know that we could just go on some really cool tangents with all of this stuff that you specialize in. So I'm really excited to get into it with you.
Absolutely. And I didn't even put down half of it because we don't have that much time.
Right. 30 different modalities. You might have to come back on later so we could talk about some of the other ones.
Absolutely.
So for those who don't know you, could you share just a little bit about yourself and your spiritual journey?
Absolutely. So I'm a natural intuitive. And what that means is I was born with these gifts and I've had them my whole life, but I struggled with them a good chunk of my life. So when I was younger, I saw spirit and I could feel other people's feelings, but I didn't understand that I was the only one in my life that could see or feel all this. So I didn't realize I was different until I started making comments about, oh, I don't like that girl's dress, or I can't believe she's wearing that. It's very outdated, just random comments. And other people started looking at me like, what are you talking about? What's going on? And of course, it had to have been when I was, 12, 13 years old at the most challenging part of anybody's life because you're trying to figure out who you are and what's going on. You're trying to fit in. So I figured out pretty quick I did not fit in, that I was seeing and feeling things a lot of other people were not. And once I figured that out, I became very ashamed of it. And I did everything I could to hide anything that would make me stand out. So I became very much a sheep, if you will, or a conformist. It didn't matter if I agreed with it or not. I always said, yes, I will do that because I wanted people to like me and I wanted to fit in. And through this process, I literally closed down my connection to spirit. And then, to be quite frank, I figured out alcohol was an amazing, amazing tool to shut down any connection with spirit. So I started drinking at a very young age. And the funny thing is, I think I got it all in my system because I really don't drink anymore. But it was very hard for me early on with these gifts. And then had 2 children, got married, got divorced. And it was after my divorce that I realized I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. There was always, everything was just so hard for me. And I didn't know why. I was doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing, what everybody told me, if you do A, B, and C, this is what's going to happen, but it never happened that way. And I distinctly remember sitting in my room crying and just, why the hell is my life so hard? And literally in that moment, I had like a flash of white light in my head. And I'd never felt so loved in my entire life. I relate it to almost like getting an energetic hug from the universe, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And it was in that moment that I put on my big girl panties and I said, okay, I had enough of this shit. This is obviously a sign that I need to be a little bit more honest and truthful with myself, even though I had no idea what that meant because I was so in deep of making everybody else happy that all of a sudden all my gifts came back, which was amazing and frightening all at the same time. I'm not going to lie, because I had a line of like 400 dead people like, hey, you're here. And I'm like, who are you? Why are you here? Are you alive? Are you dead? I mean, it was traumatic in its own way. But through that, it definitely opened things back up for me, and it allowed me to start recognizing and trying to figure out what was going on with me. And then we had the internet. I hate to date myself, but when I was younger, we did not have the internet yet.
Right.
So, we started to have the internet. I was able to start researching some stuff, and I was able to start figuring out what some of this all was. And literally, my life changed forever during that time. So, and then for me, what I've done with that is it took me a long time to figure it out, and I'm still figuring out. It's a lifelong journey. I don't think you ever really get it figured out. But now I use my own personal experience through growing up and after the divorce and my own spiritual awakening to help other people learn what their gifts are, how to utilize their gifts to make their life easier. I don't want to say successful, because even when I tell people, hey, here's your gift or whatever, it doesn't mean they always listen. So, but I try to offer the guidance and education that I've learned to help other people create sacred space for them. Anytime that people come to me, they can ask me anything. Nothing phases me, and whether it's about spiritual stuff or not. And I see that as one of my gifts to help guide everybody else. It's one of my life purpose. Mother, married, 4 dogs, 2 crazy Frenchies, 2 English bulldogs, and a cat named Jackson who thinks he's a dog. I love reading. I can never read enough. Currently, I probably have more books that I haven't read at my house than I have read, but I keep moving through them. I am an author. I'm an international best-selling author, which I'm very proud of. I never thought that would be a bucket list thing that I got done, but I did, and I did it 3 times now. And then I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I'm currently working on my PhD in metaphysical counseling. So I'm always looking for new opportunities. Obviously, just on what I've talked about so far, not a lot of rest. I am always busy doing something, and I love to travel. So anytime I get a chance to go anywhere, I'm on the plane, I'm in the car, whatever. This year I went to Bali, so that was an amazing experience.
That's beautiful. I've always wanted to go to Bali.
Do
I
it.
really, yeah, I really love how, you've had these experiences and had that closing off your gifts phase and then opening it back up. And you felt, okay, this is almost traumatic. And so it's like holding that space for others because it happens that way. Like as we start like awakening to these things that we've closed off, it can be kind of scary. It can be really intense. So I really love when people have that experience and then say, okay, I'm going to help others in this area because, it can be very ungrounding. It can be, like I've seen a lot of people that say that there's like a really thin line sometimes between like the spiritual stuff and like schizophrenia, because you're getting all this, these guides talking to you and now the ancestors are coming through and all this. And it's like, it's so nice to have someone who's experienced it to say, okay, this is a normal part of the process. And here's some rituals and here's some guidance and you can call me, because I think we need like a spiritual coach sometimes around that time, not necessarily, don't want to say all those things to the wrong person and get like labeled as some crazy person. So I really love that you've made it a part of your journey to hold that space for others along the way. That's so beautiful.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, you hit the nail on the head. It's a very thin line between being going through your spiritual awakening and do I actually have some bona fide, real mental health crisis going on. One of the things that always makes me laugh is when I see on social media, oh, I'm going through my spiritual awakening. It's all love and light and butterflies and rainbows. And I'm thinking, you're not on a spiritual awakening. You maybe have scratched the surface, because it is such a an experience and everybody has it differently. So I'm not saying that everything has to always be super hard, but to learn who you are, there is you're ripping off a big band-aid, and there's a lot of self-awareness that you have to start owning your own stuff, because universe, source, spirit, yeah, they don't guide, they aren't mindful of your feelings. They are trying to get the point across, and they'll do it how it's necessary. It's not always loving and gentle.
Right. And we hit so many like ego walls on the way. So I think there is that like first step of like, oh, it's all love and light. And then we run right into that ego. And then now we have to go through these phases of like confronting the ego and like, oh, is this comfortable for me? Or am I limiting myself? Or is this just what I want to hear? Or and so I feel like I don't know, there's so many steps of like really individuating that we're like, okay, is this real self-awareness or am I avoiding? And I think sometimes it needs to be slower. And so sometimes the love and light phase is really, comforting. I think that we do the shadow work and then we come out of it and we, find some comfort and peace. And so I think it is about balance, but it's it's kind of an interesting journey. So like I was saying, I just really appreciate people who are there for all of the phases of it because it can be really intense. and
100%, because like you just mentioned, it does go through phases. When I'm working with clients, I kind of equate it to peeling an onion. So there's more than one layer, and some of them are smaller than others. So there's times that whatever that work is that you're working on is a little bit more hard hitting, but that doesn't mean that when you get the reprieve, and I always tell people there is a reprieve,
yeah.
where you get to take a deep breath before that next phase starts, then the next one could be very light, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the individual and what they're going through, but it doesn't have to be immensely hard all the way. And it doesn't always love and light. What I always tell people is give yourself some grace and ease. You're human. This is your first time that you remember being here. And I say that intentionally because we don't typically remember when we were here before,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
we're learning what it is. So we don't know what's right or wrong. You do the best you can with what you have in the moment. And you just have to be open to, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something else and not judge yourself too hard.
Right. Yes, I've been really working on compassion and like working with the bodhisattva energy lately and extending that compassion to myself, not just to others, which is I think was my first step of like, okay, let's try to take care of everyone around me. But now I'm like, well, I kind of need that same compassion that towards myself. So when I make mistakes, like if I'm like telling others, it's fine when you make a mistake, just forgive yourself. But then I would beat myself up if I made one. So like it's that balance of self and others and like what work do I need to extend to myself that I just so willingly am giving out, and so that's kind of where I've been.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. A lot of times when I'm doing spiritual sessions with people, I always love to ask the question, what do you love? It's a very simple and straightforward question. You would be amazed at I love my spouse. I love my children. I love my job, my pets, my dogs, my lifestyle. They will go through 10 different wonderful things in their life. And I don't doubt that they love them.
Hmm.
They don't ever say themselves.
Right. Hmm.
And I think I fall into the same boat. Some days I love myself more than others. I'm certainly not fully spiritually evolved by any means. I'm still on my own journey and my path, and right now it's rocky for me. I'm not going to lie. I'm in one of those phases that I'm like, oh, come on, can we be done with this? Like, I could really use a break. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the more I resist, the longer I'm going to sit in this space because I'm not doing the work. And I actually know this. And I somehow, for some reason, still am like, watch this. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm a Taurus. I'm stubborn.
Yeah, letting go is a hard one. That's something I've been working on too, is just like allowing, but you know, we're still here working on it for a reason. It's because we haven't mastered it yet. So,
Absolutely. And if we don't master it this time, guess what? We'll swing back in and try it again.
right. Yep. No rush. No rush. So, let's talk a little bit about your salt cave. Could you explain a little bit about what is halotherapy? What are some of the benefits? Is it available for everybody to do it? Kind of things like that.
Oh, absolutely. So we have a salt room, And we have what's called an active salt room. So there's non-active and active. A non-active salt room, think of you're just going into a room that maybe has a lot of salt lamps in it, or there could be salt on the walls or something. An active salt room, that is where there's a halo generator that infuses the air with pharmaceutical grade micro salt crystals. So as you're in the salt room, you're breathing that in. So you're actually ingesting it. It can help with bronchitis, asthma, allergies. Here in Tennessee, we are in allergy season again. So I'm sitting in there all the time right now for that.
Yeah.
It can also help with normal coughing, maybe smoker's cough, any skin issues, psoriasis, eczema, acne. Um, it also can help with aging. I will tell you with that, there's really not a lot of science behind that one. So it's not something that I really throw out there a whole lot. The other thing, and to me, one of the biggest impacts is the anxiety and stress relief because you are sitting in a space, breathing in salt. Typically, it's quiet. Depending on if you go with a group of your own friends, you can talk when you're in there. If you're in there alone or with strangers, typically people don't talk. There's soothing music, and you're just sitting with yourself in that moment. And at the beginning of it, it is not uncommon. Oh, I got to do my groceries. I got to do this, blah, blah, blah. It's hard to slow your mind down. But more often than not, most people come out of there and they talk about how amazing they feel just from that stress and anxiety reduction. Anyone can do it. We have kids that go in there. Typically, we at the Sacred Owl, we prefer kids 10 and older just because they're able to sit in the chairs, and we offer 20 or 40-minute sessions. If someone came in and wanted to do something longer, we can obviously accommodate that as well, as long as it's pre-planned. I always tell people that sitting in a salt room is kind of like going to the beach, but in the house, because you most of the time you feel very relaxed when you're at the beach. There's no sun in our salt room, so you're not going to get a suntan. But there's also no birds stealing your food or birds trying to poop on you. So
Right.
it's very soothing and relaxing. And honestly, the more frequently you do it, the easier it is to find that meditative state that when you are in that space, but also the long-term effects of some of the more medicinal properties like the asthma, allergies, the skin conditions. It offers a more long-term effect on it. But it's amazing. I try to sit in there every chance I can, which is not a whole lot, but I mean, I even read books in there. So
Right. That's wonderful. We have one kind of close to where I live that I utilized a lot at the beginning of allergy season. And my whole family started getting a cold around the same time. And I really accredit the salt to having it to where we didn't actually need medication or anything. We did it twice as a group, and because we went in and we were kind of coughing and had the sneezing and stuff, and I really feel like it prevented it from turning into like an actual sinus infection or something like that. And I love it. The first few times I wanted to read and like keep my mind busy, but I didn't. Then I would be like, I just want to like rest. Why am I not resting when I'm in here, like turning off the monkey mind? Just giving yourself that moment of, this is a time of to restore. I mean, but if you're doing it all the time, obviously reading is, fun too. But
what I tell people is when we sit them in there, the halo generator makes a very hum, like a quiet hum noise.
mhm.
And then when your session's over, it starts humming louder. If you don't come out in the 5 minutes that it's humming louder, I'll come get you. And they're like, oh no, I'll hear it. Don't worry about it. I go and wake a lot of people up in there. And I love that because it tells me that they were able to find that peace and relaxation enough to kind of slip into that light sleep. I mean, I've heard people snoring from outside that I did have to go and say, hey, you gotta, move around a little bit. But it's an amazing modality for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I do feel like so many of us struggle with anxiousness and, I have a hard time like taking naps. I have even winding down before bed, I'm like trying to do yin yoga. I'm like trying to trick my brain into relaxing, but it's hard. And I don't think I'm the only one, I think it's our society. It's like there's stimulation everywhere.
Yes,
And a lot of people will actually say, oh, I can't meditate. And so I think having these little practices, to sort of introduce these spaces to where we can say, oh, I can, find relaxation. And maybe I could do this, like, take a bath before bed and like give myself that sacred space. It really is creating that atmosphere. And then once we've been introduced to that, then we can kind of take it with us, sort of like doing yoga off the mat into our lives and say, okay, like start imagining yourself in the salt cave when you're, in traffic and like super stressed, like try to bring that peace with you. Um,
absolutely.
so
One thing in the salt cave, it's funny because I change up the music. I shouldn't say it's funny, but I have a tendency for when I have people come in and say, I absolutely can't meditate. I only want to do a 20-minute session because I'm too fidgety, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that. I mean, it can be challenging for people. I will put on, I hope I'm saying this right, Selvagio, um, tunes, which what that is, it's certain frequencies, and it will allow, like at a certain megahertz, it will allow your brain to kind of drop into that theta or delta stage that we use when we're sleeping.
mhm.
So for folks that come to me and say that, and they're very concerned, I love to play those hertz for them at that specific note level. And already we're like, hey, I want to come here more often. I want a 40-minute session. Can I get an hour? Because that was so restful.
Right.
And it's one other modality, another tool that I have learned that helps people find that space within themselves.
Mhm. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about the different types of spiritual education classes that you offer.
Absolutely. So we have a little bit of everything, and we are constantly adding more things. So already today, Chelsea, who works at the shop during the day, she's already said, hey, I got two new people coming in for this. I'm like, great. So we offer anything from vision boards, how to create a vision board, how to create and put that intention in there. We actually have a free event we do once a month that's called Manifestation Meetup, which we create vision journals. So it's easier to pack it up and bring it back and forth. And everybody's allowed to build community. We talk about all kinds of stuff in that group. Last month, we were talking about aliens, and you just never know what's coming out.
I love it.
And then, so we do anything like that. We have classes about learning tarot and oracle cards, how to use dowsing rods, pendulums. Currently, the shop is very into human design, which also touches a little bit on astrology. We have one of our practitioners comes in and talks about creating ceremonies and rituals, automatic writing. We do have guided meditations. Michelle Lee comes in and does animal communication. Um, Literally, there's always something. Typically, we offer our classes on Saturdays and Sundays to make it easy for people to work it into their schedule. And then we also have an intuitive development class once a month that's free that people can come just to kind of learn whatever it is and practice. During those, it could be anything from last time or last month. I think we were working with pendulums and automatic writing. Prior to that, we were practicing reading oracle cards with each other. Um, and that, I'm one of the facilitators. Literally, spirit tells me we need to, I don't really have a game plan. I just kind of show up and see who's there. And then spirit tells me they need to work on this. So then we do. So we have a lot that, and honestly, we have to have an events calendar because I can't keep up with all of them. But it's always something. And anytime somebody is like, hey, I wish I knew about this, if one of us at the shop already doesn't know how to do it, we all have enough connections that we will ask and we'll find someone to come in and do it.
I love that. I really feel like community is a great way to learn a lot of those things because you get that feedback. So, as when we're doing oracle cards, like pulling for someone else and like you don't know their situation necessarily, and they're like, okay, pull a card for me. And then they're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly, that makes so much sense. So it's almost like when we do it with others, it helps us like trust that it's, that we're on to something, or it's, there's something, some kind of synchronicity going on, because how could it, right? How could it align? And that's so beautiful that you create that space for others to come into, because I think a lot of these topics make us feel weird and isolated, and like, we don't know how to share with other people. And I don't think it always has to be that way. I think if you can find your place within a community, then you can like celebrate, oh, I have this gift, and this person has this gift, and we can teach each other and like share this together. And then it doesn't feel like that whole isolation part that almost everybody who's had a spiritual awakening talks about is, wow, everyone thinks I'm aware now. But then you find the other weirdos, and then you don't, it's not so weird anymore, because you're like, oh, okay, we get each other. And it becomes like that spiritual family. And I love that you guys offer that for people.
Thank you. And that is one of when I decided, well, I say I, basically my husband Paul is a co-owner. He's along for the ride. He's into the metaphysical, but this I'm totally driving this boat. He shows up to help where I need it. One of the things that was so important to me was creating a sacred, safe space for folks that there is no judgment, because everybody is at a different place in their life. They've had different experiences. Not everybody grows up with amazing childhood. Not everybody grows up with this traumatic, horrendous situation, but it's learning and recognizing that all of us are trying to navigate this life, and that we're here together to give each other grace and ease and to help support each other. I know for me, it took me years to move beyond the who, knowing that everybody didn't like me, because I'm an empath, I'm a feeler. So I knew when I met new people, they already didn't like me. Well, that's kind of throws you off your friend making game.
Yeah.
But it, for me, one of my purposes in creating this space was to other people don't feel that, or it's reduced. Yeah, we may not be the same, the space for everybody, for whatever reason, but you know what? We're going to do our best to make sure everybody feels included, loved. It is not uncommon in the shop. Everybody's telling each other they love them, whether they know them or not. And I have loved myself watching just through some of the events. I see people exchanging phone numbers. Hey, let's go have lunch together. They didn't know each other 45 minutes ago. And now they have found that connection. And that brings, like, literally, I'm getting goosebumps over it. It brings me so much joy. I feel in that moment like, rah, rah, I did what I was supposed to do. I'm doing what I'm here for.
Right.
So spirituality and that support is huge for me.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. And I'm so happy that you're following your passion and, your calling, and helping connect all of these people in this beautiful way. So, what are some of the other services offered by the variety of practitioners who work at your shop?
Okay. So all of the practitioners, a wide variety of the practitioners. I teach some spiritual education courses myself, but not all of them, because there's only so much of me to go around. So we have a variety of other practitioners. We have people that come in and provide Reiki services just as a provider. Depending on who the practitioner is, they add a little extra spice to it's just not Reiki. Some of them use sound healing, tuning forks, aromatherapy, chime bells, drumming. It depends. They intuitively listen to spirit and provide whatever else needs to go. We also offer to Reiki services to learn how to be a practitioner.
Mm.
So with those, both human and animal. So there is a difference on how you work the energy a little bit. We have someone who comes in and does body code and healing, um, sound healing. Ivy is somebody who comes into the shop quite a bit, and
Mm.
she's amazing, Ivy Wren.
Yeah, we've
And
had
then,
her on the show.
yep, good, good, good. There's quantum energy healing. We have a couple practitioners that do that. I Ching, Akashic Records, palm reading. I do toe reading. So every now and again, I'll throw that out there and people are like, wait, what?
I love that.
So we have a new practitioner coming in, John, who does dowsing. And dowsing is either dowsing rods or pendulum. And he is one of the most skilled practitioners that I have ever seen in the last 30 years of somebody using that modality or using that divination tool. I met him for the first time and I was just in awe with him. I wanted to stop doing what I was doing and spend the afternoon with him, which was not an option, but I did have a good conversation and he's agreed to come into the shop. So I'm very excited about that. But from practitioners, there's a wide variety, like I said, both male and female. So people have that opportunity depending what they feel most comfortable with. Each practitioner does charge their own fee based on whatever they offer. So what we do is we just make sure to get the word out the best we can that, someone's going to be here, this is what they're offering and what those services are and the fee. So to make it available for customers, clients to determine, hey, is this one a good fit? Because you always got to feel into it too. So, and then the current practitioners we have, they're always coming up with new stuff and we're always open to new practitioners. We always have something new and exciting going on. It's kind of hard to keep up sometimes, I'm not gonna lie.
I love that though. I love that variety and all the different types of modalities. It keeps it really fun and exciting. I might have to look into the pendulum guy. My husband just told me the other day, he said, if you see anybody offering pendulum stuff, let me know. So I'm like, you just introduced it. There it is. So
Well, obviously, literally, we just got him on the calendar and probably about 30 to 45 minutes before you and I started talking. So
wow.
the fact that
Okay.
that's so hot on my brain and that I brought it up, because
Nice.
I don't have a script here. So you were meant to know about it.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely have to check that calendar out and participate in some of those classes because that sounds awesome.
Yes, it is.
So let's talk a little bit about your work with past life regression. And one of the questions I love to ask people that dabble in past lives is how does this help us in our present life?
So, one of the most amazing tools to figure out your life today is to go back to where you came from because there's a lot of similarities. So, when you go back, it and here's kind of something that's a little, I'm going to throw it out here, but it's a little crazy. Technically, we're actually living all of these lives just on parallel universes. So it's technically not a past life. It's just on a different timeline than what you are right now. That can be a little bit much for people, but
Yeah.
throw it out there. So, for example, if during a hypnotherapy session for past life regression, we go back to, I will walk people through the very basics. Are you barefoot? What are you wearing? Are you a man? Are you a woman? Are you in the city? Are you in the country? All of that stuff to make an individual very as aware as they can be of everything around them. And I always ask them, what's your job? Do you like your job? Because it is very common that if you were a baker in a past life or an author or what have you, chances are you do the same thing or pretty close. You have an interest in it.
Hmm.
I always use my husband as an example. He won't do a past life regression because that's just not where he's at, which is fine.
Hmm.
He has such an intense interest in the Roman Empire. It's ridiculous. He will watch the same show 15, 20 times. I'm like, you already know how it's going to end. I mean, what's the deal here? But it's not about that. He's like, I don't know. They just bring me comfort. So I had someone do dip in and we figured out that he used to live there. Now he's like, okay, he gets it. Someone who did Akashic records. So he was able to make that connection. But with that, I don't want to give away his reading because it's not my story to tell. But through that Akashic record reading, he was also able to figure out from a past life what and why he is some of the way he is. So one of the things you can figure out is if you have a hard time trusting someone, for example, you can go back into a past life and identify where that started. It could be anything from someone robbed you, and took all your money, to something that you were a guardian of a great treasure and you got duped. And therefore, you have no self confidence. So, even though in this lifetime that we're living, we struggle with, let's go with self confidence, really, it has nothing to do with any one particular event. You carried forward that energy and you're trying to figure out, how do I work with that? Where when you have a past life regression, if we use the guarding the treasure example, you have the opportunity to drop into that lifetime and give yourself forgiveness that you did the best you could with what you had in that moment. There was no way you could have seen 200 men coming out of nowhere to steal the treasure or whatever it is. And you can bring that by offering yourself that forgiveness energetically, that comes forward into the lifetime that you're currently in. And you will feel an immediate energetic shift. And when I say immediate, everybody, that's a relative term. For me, anytime I do them, it's typically within the first 10 to 12 hours. Some clients that I've had, it's been up to 48. But people do feel that shift. And that also helps you understand, why do you guard things? Why are you so possessive, maybe, of relationships? Those are my toys, whatever it happens to be. I'm not going to let anybody borrow my stuff because they're going to, do whatever. That's that connection. And that will help people in this lifetime realize, okay, maybe not everybody's sketchy. I mean, we got plenty of sketchy people rolling around, but it will help them release that trauma energetically, moving into this lifetime, which enhances this lifetime. It
Right.
also helps you find patterns,
Mm.
um, which is a big one. You keep doing the same thing lifetime by lifetime. Okay, why? What's the catch here? It For me, I kind of look at it. It gives you insight to why you are the way you are. And the more you do it, the more common or the more easily identifiable those trends are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do a one off, it's an amazing experience. And it's like, hey, this is really cool. But if you do two or three, then you're like, wait, why am I always standing by myself? I stand by myself a lot now. Or why am I always in a big group? Like, I need to be the center of that group. It helps you figure those out. I
Right.
love past life regression. I could
Oh,
talk about that all of 2 hours about myself.
yes, me too. I love like anytime my friends or someone has a session, I'm like, you have to give me the details because I want to know all about it. I just, because it is so like there's something empowering about making these connections and like really knowing who you are, that whole know thyself. It doesn't just extend to this current lifetime. The more you learn about the past, the more I feel like you have this peace in the presence, and then you have more power to sort of control what's the future going to bring, because now you can say, okay, I don't want that pattern, so I'm going to leave that. And it actually helps us change the future timeline, which is simultaneous, whatever, but it's like there's like something really powerful about seeing it. And I absolutely love it too. One day in the future, I'm sure that's going to be one of the things that I learn, because I'm just so interested in it. And I do the Akashic records, so I definitely am bringing forward people's past lives all the time. But there's something special about like their own higher self channeling it, which is a really cool thing to watch, because it's like, well, you're not making that up, right? It's coming through the person.
Absolutely.
And so they trust it even more, because they're like, well, how I can't make this up. I didn't know anything about that culture or whatever it was that they were channeling. So it's
And
really beautiful how we have it. We don't actually lose it, like all of these people we've ever loved, all of these lessons we've ever learned, it's still there. And I feel like that's such a beautiful thing to know, because then you realize I can't actually lose anything. Like these people that I love, like they're going to be there no matter what, because I can access them in my memory right now, and they're
absolutely.
not even in this lifetime. So,
And you, again, we're very much on the same wavelength on this, and I love that. Is when my father passed, and it was very traumatic for me. I mean, anybody who loses a parent, typically it's traumatic. And I carried that torch around for a good solid 6 years that, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I created this whole story in my head and I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? I mean, in that moment though, I had not accepted my gifts. I was still blocking everything off. So I was really tormenting myself about this. And then afterwards, literally, I was like, I talk to him every day. I mean, literally, I talk to him more now than I ever did when he was alive. I make him ride shotgun in the car with me every day when I have to leave and go someplace. I'm like, we're going to the grocery store. Come on, Dad.
Aw.
But when we realize, and that's one thing that past life regression, when you do it yourself, you realize all of this is here for you at any given moment. We just have to learn to tap in.
Mhm.
That is one of the things that, as a past life regression practitioner, I try to make that as accessible to people as possible, because to do an individual one-on-one session, it can be lengthy, it can be costly too. Where we have something at the salt room where I will put up to 6 people in the salt room and do a group past life regression, which
Mm.
has been really amazing for a lot of people because it's more economical.
Mhm.
And depending on how quick they go under, the last group we just had, we got through 2 past lifetimes, which was amazing. Normally, that's not the norm. But by doing that, already I could sense and feel the shift in those. There was happened to be all ladies last week that they were just like, oh my gosh, how is this here? And then afterwards we talked about how they can reconnect on their own whenever they want. And now they realize all of it's at our hands. For us, we just need to learn how to access it,
Right.
which that's part of what my mission and my passion is, to educate people and to offer the space to allow people that opportunity to get that the proverbial light bulb to go off over your head.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really awesome to have a guide especially in the beginning, but then someone like you that's saying, okay, I'm going to take the training wheels off because I don't want you to have to pay me for the rest of your life to have these experiences. But I found, I had a BQH session and that was great because it did help me. Okay, what does this feel like? What is this like? But then I actually found that, I go under so easily. Like I'm like straight into like theta or whatever you need to get into. That I was able to find a YouTube video and it guides me, tells me to look at my feet, and like I just need someone to suggest the things, and then my imagination or whatever just runs wild with it. But because I'd already worked with somebody, that helped ground it for me, I could trust that, oh, it's the same kind of process. The key is having someone get you into that state, and then start asking questions, because it's like those little suggestions while you're relaxed or like, oh, okay, where am I am looking around now, because I feel like I get a little distracted sometimes once I'm in there. So it's good for someone to say,
Easy to happen.
what do you see? Is there anything like around the room? Like, what time period does it look like? And those things are like, oh, and then it's like it shifts the whole atmosphere, which is really cool. But, I do think I was able to trust, doing it through like something like YouTube once I had an actual personal experience, because you don't want to just like trust anybody, right? I got the trust
Yeah.
issues, right? That you were talking about earlier from the past lives. So, but then once I found one that I really liked, I'm like, I can do this one every time because I'm like, it works. I know they're not going to ask anything sketchy or anything like that. And so now I can do it whenever, I want, which is not that often because I do have to have, so much time to just relax to get into that state.
Right.
But, it really, I feel like once it's activated, it's a lot easier
Oh,
to get into
absolutely.
it. So it's almost like with Reiki, like once you've been like attuned, now you have it. And I feel like it's similar. Like once you've accessed this realm, you're like, okay, I'm here. I'm here. So that's
And
really cool.
I'm a huge proponent for, I always use the analogy, I am here, this space is here to help get you started on your journey or help get you back into your journey, because it's not uncommon for people to start it and then like, oh, the
Right.
easiest thing we always give up in our lives is ourselves. We have a knack for taking care of everybody else but ourselves.
Hmm.
When a lot of times during the classes that I teach, whether it be past life regression, meditations, anything, is I'm only one stop on your journey. Don't Just because I offer 10 classes doesn't mean you have to come to all of them, because they may not be for you. And there are so many free resources that are out there. You just have to be mindful and find what works for you. For guided meditation, I'm very much a guided meditation person. I cannot just sit there and wait for it to happen. It's not going to happen for me. I also like walking out in the woods. That is very grounding for me. I'm very earthy. But when I'm doing a guided meditation, I have gone through 15 to 20 before I finally find somebody that I'm like, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
You know, I need, what is the tone, the pitch? Do they have an accent? Is it man? Is it a female? I mean, it's all of this. Do they have music? Do I like the music? I mean, it's a whole situation. When I do find them, I cling on for life, and hope that they decide not to stop doing or to stop doing it. But it is so important, and we also outgrow them. So
Hmm.
it is important to consistently find new teachers to help grow your journey. Like I said, I am only one stop. I hope I'm only one stop, because I don't want to be somebody's only stop. I think that's a huge disservice to them. And gosh, when you get the door opened, you just want to, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I encourage that with people. Don't stop, be curious. That's what I tell everybody that I work with. Don't lose your spark. Go be curious. Keep asking, keep looking. And it's okay that this didn't work for you.
Right.
I think there's
Maybe it was.
people sometimes get an expectation that I have to only meditate sitting in a certain position, saying Om. The Tibetan monks have spent years to get there.
Right.
We're not going to show up on our first time and master that.
Right. Yeah. Not all of us were monks in past lives. I find that the
Correct.
people that naturally fall into it tend to have been, oh, they were a guru in a past life. So that's why they
Yes.
go right into that state. Some of us are actually working towards that in this life, or maybe we're steering away from it because we already did it. And our
Yeah,
soul's like, let's not do the whole aesthetic thing again. Like, let's
absolutely.
let's have some freedom this time. So I love all that. Your work sounds amazing, and I'm really happy that there's people like this in our community that are helping. And I really resonated when you were like, give your space or self space to change your teacher, because there's a saying, and when you're ready, the teacher appears. When the student's ready, the teacher appears, and when the student's really ready, the teacher disappears.
Yes.
And that has been so true for my journey. I don't really have like a one guru, right? I have like so many. I mean, so many people. I mean, I've had 60 episodes on the show, and like basically all these people have been teachers to me to some extent, maybe
Yeah.
just for that moment. Some of the people I might have worked with for a couple years, through a specific thing. And then almost all of them, I have to let go. Like they move, or, I start focusing on something else. And there is this sort of like sadness sometimes, because I'm like, but I'm so comfortable and safe here, right? But they're still there, right? Like we were saying, like we don't lose anything. So if someone was working with me and taught me something, even though I might not see them maybe ever again, or maybe I might just see them here or there, all I have to do is think of them and that wisdom comes through, because I've already made that connection. So I'm like, what would so and so say? And then there's the advice. It like pops right in. And I'm like, oh, that's what they would say. Thanks for that.
Exactly. And
So,
I think that's part of our journey, though. When you grow comfortable with wherever you're at, that is the biggest indicator that you need to release it and go to the next part that's scary and uncomfortable, because you're not growing when you're comfortable.
right. For sure. For sure. Um, so what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out on their spiritual journey?
This is what I tell everybody all the time: consistency and curiosity. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. There's going to be times that you don't want to meditate, for example. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up that you didn't meditate today.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, set that time aside. And it does not need to be an hour. You can meditate in 5 minutes. If you have monkey brain, monkey mind, where it's start with two and celebrate that you walked through that 2 minutes. And even when those thoughts pop up in your head, put them on a cloud and watch the cloud disappear as you breathe in and as you breathe out, the cloud disappears. Work your way up. If it's a situation the day is so chaotic and you've worked your way up to 20 minutes, but you only have 10, do the 10 and be
Right.
good with it. There's so many different ways to connect into source. What works for me does not necessarily work for everybody else. You have to figure out what it is. I can meditate while I walk because meditation is about clearing your mind.
Mhm.
Just not worrying about the grocery list or, oh, I got 3 loads of laundry, blah, 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 blah. So give yourself some grace and ease on that. Your journey will look different than everybody else. And don't beat yourself up. There doesn't have to be a huge ritual either. You don't have
Right.
to light candles and music and face the west. And I've had people ask me some stuff, and I'm like, I can understand why you're struggling with this. Geez, it's a 15-minute deal just to sit down,
Right.
to get to where you need to be. So give yourself that grace and ease. If it feels good, keep doing that. If it
Mhm.
doesn't resonate with you, that's not for you. Move on.
Right.
It's spiritual teachers. Some will resonate, some won't. It's okay that they don't resonate with you. And I tell people that they're like, I don't get this. It's not working for me. I'm not your teacher. Doesn't mean I'm still not here for you,
Right.
but let's try to find you somebody else, you know? So for me, the consistency, you want to talk, I always tell this to people who want to be, connect to spirit. Consistency at the same time of every day. Some people are morning, some people are night. Depends on what works for you, but do it at the same time. So every day, let's say you're a morning person, wake up 10 minutes early and ask for protection, ground your energy, and then I'm here to work. Tell them I'm here to work. Work with me. This is what I want to do. You can say it out loud or you can say it in your head. Bless my husband. He hears me having conversations out loud all the time.
Yeah.
He just ignores them now because he doesn't know if he's actually being talked to or not. He just assumes it's not about him. But the fact that I'm consistent, spirit comes through to me that much faster.
Right.
And it's taken me years to get to that. So that's why I always share that with people. Let me save you 10 years.
Right, right. And these rituals don't have to be these long, drawn out, kind of things. And there was a point when I was in the records and I was like, okay, I probably just need some other kind of ritual because something new's happening. And they were like, you're doing too many rituals. Like
Yeah.
the whole point of a ritual is that like you say, it's consistent, but you don't necessarily have to do 10 more, okay, so now this has happened and I change it. Now, working with the wheel of the year, maybe changing your ritual just slightly based on the seasons or something, that's cool. But I was just like a little like obsessed with, okay, I need a ritual to fix everything. And I didn't necessarily need to, like the mantra I do pretty consistently. It's like you just got to say it 11 times, like that's it. Like you don't have to do it for 45 minutes, and I think I don't know, I was using ritual as like some kind of crutch of like, okay, well, if I just did this ritual the right way and I did, and I'm like, okay, rituals are good, but they need to actually be like a part of your life to where it's not stressing you out over the ritual, because that's not now you're taking away from it because you're like dreading it. You're like,
Absolutely.
okay, I've got to make 3 hours to do this meditation. That's fine if it's like a super special occasion or something, but I was actually overdoing the rituals. The records are the ones that had me calm down with the rituals. So,
And part of that, which I think is great, is that you recognized it. You're like, okay, okay, I get it, I get it, I get it. Because a lot of times people still, well, no, I listened to somebody and they said I have to do A, B, and C. So I love that. I am like you. I am always looking to integrate things into my life. When I take a shower in the morning, I am watching my energy go down the drain, the stagnant old energy. And then when I'm doing my shampoo and then when I'm putting in my conditioner, I'm watching my life or my whole body re-energize with white light. And then
mhm.
when I'm washing my body, I'm making the bubble of protection. Guess what? I didn't spend any extra time in there.
Right,
And
right.
I was thinking of good positive, uplifting things for myself rather than crap. I got to do the laundry. I got to go to the doctor at 2. I did me first thing out of the day. And it took me all of 2 minutes to go through that. Maybe I
Right.
watched my hair fast. I don't know, but you know what I mean?
So it's really just setting the intention and then letting it go.
Yes,
Because that's I think my issue was is I was trying to control things too much with these rituals that I was like, okay, the more rituals I do, the more control I'm gonna have. And spirit just cracked up at me for this. They were like, you can do all the rituals that you want, but
yeah,
you're still not gonna have any control over the outcome of this. Like set your intentions, do the protection, and then let it go. Because
exactly.
like controlling it just adds anxiety, worry, and stress. And then once you start doing that, you bring all that other stuff into your field. So yeah, I learned that the
Absolutely.
hard way. So,
I think some lessons we intentionally have to learn the hard way.
right.
I already mentioned I'm a Taurus. I do learn things. I'm the one that spirit, it's not uncommon for them to have to hit me in the head with a 2x4. They've tried the gentle, loving nudges. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm going to keep doing it my way. And they're like, no, it ain't going to work that way.
Yes, yes. I'm have a line 3 in human design. So it's all this experimenting and like sampling and trying all the things. So, I have to acknowledge that just because I try it doesn't mean I have to hold on to it forever. I'm like, okay, that didn't work or that worked for a week and that was great. And now it's time for something else. And I feel like human design sort of helped me understand that about myself that yes, I'm going to try all sorts of things, but I don't necessarily have to do every single thing I've ever learned every day. Like there's
Absolutely.
a time and a place, like it's in the toolkit. Sometimes I'll bring something out that we haven't used in 10 years. And I'm like, well, right now it feels good. My intuition's telling me to do this, haven't thought about it in a long time, but for this moment, I learned it 10 years ago for this moment right now. So,
And that's what it is. There's plenty of things I learned 10 years ago that I don't use day to day.
right.
But randomly, one in that moment, at a weird time, I'm like, oh, well, now I know why I know that.
Right. That's why I bought that crystal that I totally forgot about.
Exactly.
So, so with all your years of work in metaphysics and all the things like that, what would you consider the most valuable practice that you've picked up along the way?
Oh gosh.
It's a big question.
It really is because immediately the first thing that came to my mind was compassion.
Mm,
So technically it's not a practice, it's not a modality, but I learned how to be compassionate to others and to not judge others based on their exterior because I have absolutely no idea what they're going through or what they've been through. Um, the other big one for me is my energetic connection with Mother Earth and with people. Um, it has helped me. I'm an empath. Some people like to call it just being a trauma survivor because now you know how to read people. But I have this amazing thing that's essentially it's a human lie detector. I may not know what the truth is, but I know that's not it.
right, right, right.
Excuse me. And the energies that I can feel from people help me key in on they need more support, even though they have that stoic face. I'm fine,
Yeah.
where or the ones that are like, no, I'm fine. Like, really, I'm telling you, leave me alone. So being able to connect to that energy has allowed me an opportunity to connect to people in a different way, to show up for them how they actually need it versus how I think they might need it.
Hmm.
Because I'm not always what my spin, my perception is not their reality.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. So we're kind of wrapping things up. Could you share the best way for our audience to connect with you, follow, and support your work, and also your business hours and location?
Oh, absolutely. So connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the Sacred Owl and Salt Room. They're both the same. We
Okay.
are venturing into TikTok. Okay, so everybody be gentle with us because we're figuring that out. With that, we're at the_sacred_owl. And then we have our website, which is just the sacred owl and saltroom.com. You can find us in West Knoxville. That's where our brick and mortar store is. We're at 215 Center Park Drive. We are right across the street from the Honda dealership on Parkside Drive. We're in a business complex. We can be a little hard to find, but there's a big owl on the window. We are open 7 days a week. So we're there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 10 to 6. And then Wednesday and Friday, we're open late from 10 to 8. And then on Sundays from 11 to 5. You can book a good variety of our services online. Then we also have some free events for folks. We have a book club that we just started, and we have human design discussion, and then we have manifestation meetup, and then our psychic development group. So those are all great ways to become introduced and come join our community. Even if it's, you don't need to pay for a class to come in. You don't need to buy anything. We're happy to have anybody come in and build that community. And then let's see. When you come in to see us, I mean, plan on staying for more than 10 minutes because nothing's 10 minutes in there. It's a very open forum, a very loving forum where Gary is one of our readers, and he's also one of our staff employee. He'll talk your ear off. He loves to connect with people, and he's very well versed in metaphysics. He's been involved in the community for like 25 years. And then Chelsea, who's there typically during the day, she is the crystal queen. She knows all the crystals and all the books. We do like to tout that we have one of the biggest metaphysical book selections in Knoxville. We currently have right around 150 different books in the store. So, and they range from everything from herbs and botanicals, Wicca, how to learn tarot, how to smudge, in psychic workbooks, how do I develop my gifts? We kind of have a little bit of everything there. And then if you want to meet me in the shop, I am there pretty much every Saturday. And I love meeting new people. So stop in anytime.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to swing by and check you guys out sometime because that all sounds amazing. And we just had Gary on the show. So our audience is already familiar with him and
Awesome.
a couple of your other people we've had on the show. So,
Okay,
and
good.
maybe in the future we'll have some more of those people because I mean, it aligns so well with this podcast. So,
Yeah.
And this has been so beautiful getting to know you, and I love sharing you now with our community, and it's awesome. So, thank you so much for your time and doing this episode with me. It's been really lovely.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've had an amazing time, and I appreciate you inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share my passion with your audience as well.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome back anytime. So,
Awesome.
all right. And thank you all for tuning in. Check us out next time on the Astral Hour.